record and call the June 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting for the City of Somersworth to order. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Pepin.
Yep.
Gibson.
Here.
Gibson.
Here.
Harity Catanzaro.
Oh, she's excused.
Michaud.
Yeah.
Witham.
Here.
Goodwin.
Here.
Cameron. Yeah. Barry.
Here.
Councilor Goodwin will lead the council in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which we'll have a moment of silence for Chris Smith, who is a member of our parade committee, who recently passed. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the recognition of our Indigenous people, our Native ancestral Americans. This meeting takes place on Indokina, which is the unceded traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land, waterways, living beings, and the Alnabuk, the people who have stewarded Indokina throughout generations. Item 4 on the agenda are any scheduled public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening on Ordinance 24-25, which is a supplemental appropriation for emergency repairs for the Fire Department Truck 1. Is there anyone here this evening looking to speak towards Ordinance 24-25? Anyone? Ordinance 24-25. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on Ordinance 24-25. Next up, I have item 5, which is comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rule 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speakers shall not enter into a debate with any persons, the mayor, council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Anyone who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none. Move to item 6, which is approval of the consent calendar. The chair will obtain a motion to approve the consent calendar, which includes the minutes of the city council meeting held on May 19th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Councilor Pepin? Councilor Pepin moves to accept the consent calendar as presented, seconded by Councilor Gibson. Question for the council is on the adoption of the consent calendar. If you're in favor, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes appear to have it, ayes have it with one abstention. Consent calendar is adopted. Item 7 on the agenda is comments by city councilors. Are there any comments this evening by councilors? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to item 8, which is communications. We have none. Item 9 is presentations and petitions and disposal thereof. We have none. Brings us to item 10, which is the mayor's report. Seeing that I wasn't here last meeting, I didn't get the opportunity to officially congratulate our new city manager, who we had approved at the meeting prior. His contract was approved then. I'm really thankful for all the work of the dedication and the process that we went through as a council. I really appreciate all our council members, and I believe that our new city manager, David Moore, will make for a phenomenal city manager. He'll serve the city well. He will hopefully fill as best as possible the very, very big shoes that are going to be left when our current city manager, Mr. Bob Belmore, retires at the end of the month. I see the potential for the continuation of all this great work that we've been doing, innovation, energy, I see it all, and most importantly, I do believe that Mr. Moore aligns perfectly with the values that we hold here in Somersworth. He's thoughtful, he's open-minded, energetic, and I think will be quite committed to the city for what I hope is a long tenure, and hopefully as long as we've been fortunate to have with Manager Belmore. I'd also like to thank MRI and Alan Gould for all their help through the process and the support that they gave us. They helped collect applications, develop the questionnaires, and vet, I believe, over 30 applicants and provide us with a set of finalists that we then interviewed. And I really couldn't have envisioned a much smoother process. I really appreciate everything that everyone did to make that process as successful as it was. And again, thank you to the council for the extra hours you all committed and the number of meetings that you went to in order to vet our candidates and get them through. Thank you. Next up, I'd like to discuss one of the ordinances that I brought forward at our last meeting, and I wasn't here to introduce it, so I apologize, but I figured I'd talk a bit about it tonight. It's Ordinance 25-25, which is to amend Chapter 19 Zoning Ordinance Section 14 Historic District by adding exempt activities. This is proposing slight changes to the oversight of the Historic District Commission. This ordinance, if adopted, would change the process for how new buildings and structures are evaluated within just the commercial industrial historic district of our downtown, which includes parts of High Street, Market Street, Main Street, but does not include the areas of the historic district known as the Hill. It would exempt new buildings and structures within the commercial industrial historic district from direct approval from the HDC, but would still allow the HDC to provide comments on new buildings and structures directly to the planning board. This means that the HDC would not be voting on approval for any new buildings or structures, but would still provide input, much like our conservation currently does, and provide comment to the planning board directly. The ordinance change is being brought forward after much work, deliberation, and thought. It's my personal belief that the Historic District Commission helps to preserve important characteristics of what make our city beautiful and unique. This ordinance change does not prevent this in any way, shape, or form. Any changes to existing buildings and structures would still need to go before the HDC for review and approval, if this were to pass, in order to ensure that our history is preserved. Also, any new buildings and structures within our most well-preserved and historically important part of our historic district, which is, I think many would agree, the Hilltop Historic District, would still require HDC review and approval. Not only would this make the process, I believe, easier for developers, I believe it would also allow for more investment and development in the parts of the city that require the most rejuvenation, which is our our commercial industrial historic area. This ordinance change would allow for more investment in our downtown. It would allow for an easier process for developers looking to add more housing or businesses with fewer steps and checkpoints. And would also hopefully allow for easier economic development of a critical part of the city that we've been focused on for a while. So to be clear, only new buildings and structures would be exempt, and it would only be within the downtown area, exactly where we want to have development. Also, this ordinance looks to update and clarify the map that's used to describe the district, and intends to make it easier for citizens and developers to see what parts of the city are within the various layers of the historic district. This does not change the size or shape or any of the lots that are within the historic district. All it does is it hopefully will update the map, and I'll be asking Economic Development Committee to look at that as well when I send it to you all. But I also want to be clear that this is coming out because the city has been desperate for some sort of change related to the HDC for a number of years. There has been contention between the HDC and the city. A number of projects and decisions have caused this, for better or for worse. There have been previous attempts to shrink the district or dissolve the HDC in its entirety. I am not in favor of those types of changes. I think they are radical, and I do appreciate the value of our Historic District Commission, but I genuinely feel that there needs to be some sort of middle ground, and I hope that this takes steps to kind of get us to a compromise that can be beneficial for both sides. The council can be happy to know that we're lowering barriers for development to important parts of our city, while the HCC can be happy to know that their district is remaining intact, and they maintain oversight over existing historical buildings and structures and have input to the planning board for any infill development. It also increases collaboration and communication between the HDC and the planning board, I hope, and can help close critical housing gaps recently identified in our new housing chapter of our master plan. For example, this change would help to meet goals 3, 4, and 5 of the housing chapter, which are very important steps towards achieving our mission of nearly 750 new housing units by 2040. So with that, I hope I have your support, and I will be referring Ordinance 25-25 to the Economic Development Committee for review before it returns to City Council for a public hearing and its second reading. Lastly, I would like to wish everyone a happy and safe Pride Month. It is now officially June. I cannot believe it's June. I feel like it sneaks up on me every year, probably just because it's the end of the school year and it gets so busy. But it has felt for the past few months that openly celebrating diversity is sadly getting more and more taboo, maybe. I've never thought that I'd see a day that we would take such major steps backwards as a nation, and I'm kind of sitting here reflecting on the level of acceptance and diversity within this country, and I'm genuinely just shocked that I'm bearing witness to what appears to be a national silencing of voices, research, and education related to diversity, particularly related to LGBTQ plus issues, among others. I feel more and more unsafe to be queer, and I think more and more companies, politicians, and people are distancing themselves from being open, kind, and respectful towards people in the LGBTQ plus community. In fact, I fear that we have a president, a governor, and now a state and national party of people who would like to essentially govern us out of existence and erase us from history. To me, an openly gay mayor, the only one in the state of New Hampshire, and actually the second one, who, again, if you all remember, the first one sat here just 2 years ago in this same seat. But again, as the second one for the entire state of New Hampshire, things like this only make me want to be louder and more supportive. I believe that when faced with obstacles such as this, it is best to harness their power and turn it back upon itself. Make lemonade, so to say. So rather than be silence, I think we harness the silence for our own. I ask that we take a moment of silence, another tonight, for all those in the LGBTQ plus community who have felt less than, who have had to hide their true selves, or their spark, or whatever it is that makes them special and unique. Or for those who have been made to feel other, or so other that they have contemplated harming themselves. Or those who have been subject to so much hatred that they have died of suicide. So again, I asked that we take a brief moment of silence for those people. Thank you. Thank you. So to continue celebrating our diversity, I invite everyone to the raising of the Pride flag next Monday on June 9th at 4 p.m. at Citizens Place outside City Hall. City councilors, we have a meeting that night at 4:30, so you have no excuse not to be there. But all, of course, are welcome with open arms. I hope to see you all there. Thus concludes my report. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item 11, which is reports of standing committees. First up, we have the Finance Committee, Chairman Witham.
No report.
Thank you. Next up, we have Government Operations Committee, Chairman Michaud.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Government Ops Committee met on May 21st here in Council Chambers at 5 p.m. First agenda on the meeting was to approve the minutes of January 14th, 2025 meeting, which was our last meeting. And next on the agenda was a petition to extend and improve public meeting notice requirements. After another lengthy conversation amongst members, we decided to table this once again, and we decided that we're going to wait till the next city manager to come into place and then sit down with him and see how there are ways that we can actually move forward with this. And what we're thinking, probably instead of the city staff usually puts it out usually Friday morning or Friday afternoon, just before the council meeting that following Monday. Possibly bring it out possibly on a Thursday or a Wednesday. But we don't want to do that until we confer with the city manager. And we don't want to overburden our city staff right now, so we tabled that. So when the new city manager comes in, we'll discuss it once again. And next on that meeting schedule was compensation schedule or COLAs between wastewater and wastewater employees. We approved a 3% increase between the union and non-union members. It's like what one gets, when the other team gets. So we approved that. Next on the agenda was life insurance for some of the city employees. That also was tabled. And we're looking for some legal advice from the city lawyers. So or to come out eventually on that. Next was under miscellaneous, and it was discussion on restricting the use of the cable funds. After a discussion there, we decided that city councilors do a very good job in maintaining how we use it. We don't just spend it because there it is, free money. So we decided not to act upon that. So next was in the adjournment, and we adjourned at 5:41 p.m.
Thank you. Next up is Economic Development Committee, Chairman Goodwin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Economic Development met at 5 p.m. This evening before our workshop, or workshops. There were two agenda items that were an interesting combination, to say the least. The first was an application for, via Chapter 31, which is our 79E ordinance, seeking 5 years of tax relief for the substantial rehabilitation of one Somersworth Plaza, which is the old Lucky supermarket space. The long time downtown business, Nostos MMA, is looking to relocate. Their business has done very well. They are celebrating their 11th year. They have over 300 members, I think close to 400 members, and are looking for a larger space, more updated facilities, and better parking than their current facility has. The committee felt that, they, by all reasonable standards of our Chapter 31, that this applicant should be given the opportunity to be approved, and we unanimously agreed to recommend approval before council. The other agenda item, however, was the conversation around whether or not the city should pursue some sort of land bank using general funds and the power of eminent domain to buy out the plaza, of which the first agenda item was located in, for a catalytic real estate redevelopment opportunity to reposition that property to something closer in line to what has been identified in the master plan, something mixed use, housing that restored the street wall and sort of repaired some of the missteps that many feel were taken during urban renewal. So obviously those two agenda items are kind of in tension, and I don't think the committee came to, we intentionally did not come to an agreement on, by recommending council review the application for the MMA studio tax relief. We are not saying we are not interested in pursuing and having a discussion with the council at large about opportunities for thinking bigger picture. And so we requested, via the mayor, to do a workshop on the land bank opportunity to talk about what that would look like, to see if there's an appetite for that opportunity. And these two things will have to be considered concurrently in the coming meetings. And then we concluded at 5:30.
Thank you. So again, for council's information, we are meeting next Monday, June 9th at 4:30 to have a workshop on this specific issue. So please come prepared with ideas, thoughts. I will entrust the Economic Development Committee to kind of guide us through that, and the chair to kind of guide us through that as we begin thinking about what we as a council would like to see happen with the plaza, essentially. All right, thank you. Brings us to Public Safety Committee, Chairman Pepin.
I have nothing to report this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Next is Public Works and the Environment Committee, Chairman Witham.
Thank you. No report tonight. However, I am working with the city manager to schedule a meeting within the coming weeks, part of which will entail a site walk up at the Noble Pines, looking at the engineer's proposed locations for the new water tower standpipe. I know we've all seen them on paper and depicted graphically here, but I think there would be some value in actually walking the site. Part of that preparation is making sure the engineers can get out to the site in advance and mark where the proposed locations would be. with ground stakes or some other mechanism. After the site walk, we would take a brief recess, reconvene here at City Hall, and complete our meeting. So still working through the details of that and an agenda, but I just wanted to kind of let committee members know what's on the horizon there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Recreation Committee Chairwoman Cameron.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a very exciting meeting coming up on Wednesday at 4:30 in council chambers about the mural for the Little League field.
Can't wait. Thank you. All right, brings us to item 12, which is reports of special committees. Are there any reports of special committees this evening? Councilor Barry?
Just wanted to let council know the HDC did meet last week. We had 4 applications on the agenda that did pass, a couple with few stipulations. We had one that was laid on the table that the application did not come back. It is still on the table for a retaining wall and parking lot. That is where that stands.
Thank you. Other reports of special committees? All right, seeing none, I'll turn it over to the city manager to deliver his report.
Thank you, Your Honor. The following comments were included in my written report to council for this evening. Under new business, ordinance 2625 regarding personnel rules and regulations compensation schedule to amend chapter 4. Both the Finance Committee and Government Ops Committee met and voted to recommend a 3% cost of living adjustment to the non-union staff wages that are found in City Ordinance 4 Personnel Rules and Regulations. And as you know, or may recall, the Water and Wastewater Union would also receive any changes in regards to any COLA adjustment due to their Me Too clause that they negotiated with, the city negotiated with them many years ago. So I would recommend a public hearing be scheduled before the next regular council meeting on Monday, June 16th, Your Honor.
Yeah, without objection.
The next ordinance, 2725, is regarding a transfer between departments for fiscal year 2025. This action is a required housekeeping administrative step in accordance with the city charter. The Finance Committee met on May 6th and voted to support a proposed transfer ordinance as deemed necessary by city staff. Again, with all our ordinances, we have a public hearing, so I recommend we have that also on the calendar for Monday, June 16th, Your
Without
Honor.
objection.
Under resolutions, 5825 in new business authorizes the manager to enter into a grant agreement with the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety for traffic enforcement patrols. I gave you a copy of the pertinent sections of the grant agreement that provides more information on the specifics of the patrols to include speed enforcement, distracted driving, and other enforcement patrol opportunities. The next resolution, 5925, again authorizes the manager to prepare bid specs for the replacement of the fire department's aerial ladder truck with an aerial platform truck. And I gave you a copy of Fire Chief Moore's memorandum that outlines the bid package process to date. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, brings us to number 13, which is nominations, appointments, and elections. We have none. Brings us to items 14, which is items that have been laid on the table. We have one item laid on the table, that's ordinance 19-25, which is to amend chapter 19 zoning ordinance section 19.24 accessory dwelling units and section 25 definitions, section Z.D dwelling units accessory. I know we were waiting on potential language.
Your Honor, I'd like to
clarify.
remove it from the table.
Yeah, thank you. We have a motion to remove ordinance 19-25 from the table, seconded by, we'll do Councilor Gibson. Motion for council is to remove ordinance 19-25 from the table. This is a non-debatable motion. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes appear to have it. Ayes have it. Ordinance 19-25 has been removed from the table. Having been read a first and second time, the removed item is now open to further amendment. Councilor Witham?
Yeah, before I offer an amendment, I just want to make clear with the city manager, the version that is in our packet tonight includes the amendment that was offered up with regard to gross floor area. Is that correct?
Good question.
I don't believe so because the council didn't make that amendment. So I think it's the original one.
And why, I thought we had talked about an amendment. I know I met with you and Director Mears. regarding this language? Could we suspend rules, Your Honor, and have the director?
Absolutely, without
address the issue?
objection. Yes, Director Mears, if you don't mind.
No. I'll have a question in here, Director. So this was tabled because we had discussion several meetings ago about the 800 square feet, whether or not that included areas behind knee walls, whether it included hallways and closets and all of this sort of thing. We sought to revise that it would be what I'll call living area. I know you and your team did some digging in terms of definitions, and I know we landed on a term that we wanted to use because it would then exclude things like areas behind knee walls and hallways and things of that nature. Still keep it at the 800 square feet, but by having a more concise definition, you might arguably be closer to 1,000 square feet of living space, if you will. So I know that's a
Yes.
long question in there somewhere, I think.
That is correct. So we had agreed upon habitable space as the definition.
Habitable space.
In the International Code Council residential code, that is, the definition is a space in a building for living, sleeping, eating, or cooking, bathrooms, toilets, rooms, closets, halls, storage, or utility spaces, and similar areas are not considered habitable spaces.
Got it. So with that, Your Honor, if I could make an amendment.
Absolutely.
It's under, on the second page, E,
Yes.
dimensions, 1I, thank you, 800 square feet of habitable space, as defined in the International Building Code, is that correct?
International Residential Code.
International Residential
let me
Code.
just
So
write that down.
I'd like that amendment to read that way.
Yep, let me just write that down.
Yeah, and the other amendment would be to add that definition in the definitions section of the ordinance.
Add definition in.
Question, Your Honor?
Yep, go ahead.
If
The-
it's seconded, a discussion could occur on that.
Oh, true. Is this a more of a discussion item? All right, we have it seconded. So again, just to repeat the amendment, it's to alter under E1I, cross out gross floor area and change to habitable space as defined in the International Residential Code, and to include that definition in the definitions section of this ordinance. Great. Discussion. Counselor Gibson.
Yeah. I was trying to listen, but I wasn't sure if I understood it correctly. You listed the habitable, then you listed what was not included. Could you go over what's not included again?
Yes, bathrooms, toilets, closets, halls, storage, or utility spaces are not included as part of that. Definition,
That
which gives
is
a little bit more.
lot of floor space.
There you go.
That's, I have a problem with that because when you start talking about excluding all those areas, you could virtually, and not have it look odd, double the actual square footage of the footprint. I mean, closets, bathrooms.
All right.
So
yeah.
that's, I have a severe problem with that definition then.
Thank you. Counselor Vincent.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I don't want to split hairs, but if I wanted to take a heating unit and put it in a 10 by 12 room and say it was a heating unit, that's all great. When code enforcement leaves, that's becoming a bedroom. So you want to walk gently with some of this stuff, okay? I mean, like I said, I don't want to split hairs, but, you know, the counselor to my left has some merit here. And the size could get extremely large. How do we police this or govern this? I'm not really sure, but maybe there's something that's laying that that I don't know about. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do Counselor Barry and then Counselor Goodwin.
I
Or
have,
Counselor Barry first.
oh,
please.
sorry.
Just a quick question for my information, kind of going along with Vincent and Gibson's question. These would still go through planning, is my understanding, to be addressed. So I feel like if something was crazy or out of scope, to me, how planning would catch that and say that's not recognized. But I also think with any building, people take closets and make them bedrooms and other things. Unfortunately, I don't agree with it. It happens, and that's where code enforcement and other things are in place to possibly help. So at least for me specifically, I feel like I would put my trust in planning to catch some of those. But
Thank you. Counselor Goodwin?
Yes, and sorry, Councilor Barry also. My brain is just slow this evening. So there are two things in this ordinance, well, one thing in this ordinance that gives me comfort with using that definition for habitable space is that Part D of the ordinance is the ADU shall be clearly subordinate to the primary dwelling unit. So, you know, if you have a 2,000 square foot home, this building needs to be clearly subordinate, which is like, and the way I interpret that is, to the eye needs to be smaller. So, and you know, an 1,800 square foot home isn't to the eye obviously smaller. So it's like, there is a, you know, it's subjective, but planning, through the planning approval process, like there, you know, we can say it's like, that is objectively not subordinate to the main structure. And we have the secondary definition that, you know, would provide us backup. I would offer perhaps a second amendment if folks are uncomfortable with sort of the flexibility that the revised amendment has, which is to add a not to exceed of whatever number, 1,200 square feet, maybe gross square feet, so we know that nothing can be bigger than 1,200 square feet, but it gives flexibility for people to accommodate circulation and storage and an HVAC closet or whatever. So,
Your Honor?
That's it.
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate the comment.
Sorry. Yeah, hold on one second. I did have Counselor with the next good point. I almost skipped
Oh,
to
I'm
there.
sorry.
But before we move on, Counselor Goodwin, are you offering a friendly amendment to the amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd second that.
What is your number? Not to exceed
I would say, I'm going to say 1,200 square feet.
1,200 square feet. All right. Counselor Witham, you made the amendment. Do you
I am
accept
fine with that friendly amendment.
friendly amendment? Perfect. And you seconded, Counselor Gibson? Oh, you did. I apologize. Counselor Vincent, you're okay with that? Yeah. Great. So we've now included to this amendment a not to exceed clause, which will go after the language about habitable space that will say not to exceed 1,200 square feet.
Gross square feet.
Gross square feet. Thank you. Not to
And-
exceed.
Of habitable space. It needs to be habitable.
No.
Not habitable.
I'm not good with the friendly amendment.
Okay, so the not to exceed, on the, why I'm offering this friendly amendment is that we have a habitable space definition that is limited to 800 square feet. But I think the concern I'm hearing from some counselors is that bathrooms, hallways, what were some of the other things? The
Closet,
closets.
utility
Those
room.
things you could design very large walk-in closets, very large bathrooms, and I don't know why you'd want this, but like lots of hallways, to make a structure meaningfully larger than the 800 square feet. I don't think you'd get double the size, but you could definitely get bigger than the 800 square feet. I'm saying, you know, another way to limit this is we can just provide a maximum. Frankly, we wouldn't need the habitable number if we did this, but anyways. But if we just provide a maximum gross square feet that people are comfortable with, that is larger than 800 square feet to give people a little more flexibility, that solves the problem.
This would give 400 square feet of non-habitable
Correct.
square foot allowance. So
Yes.
400 square feet for bathrooms, closets, hallways, things like that, which just for those who are watching at home, it's about a 20 by 20 area of non-habitable square feet allowance.
Correct.
Are you friendly to the friendly amendment?
Can I have my discussion point and I may
You
jump
sure
back
can.
on with the
Go
friendly
ahead.
amendment?
Go ahead.
I got to think about the language because I'm not following it the way you do, Your
Okay.
Honor. And it might be just me. So backtrack. this ordinance gets introduced, was contacted by a constituent to say that the language that was in here, that is in here currently, prior to the amendment being offered, of gross floor area is ambiguous. It could be gross floor area of habitable space, it could be gross floor area of all spaces. It did not allow for clarity. So the terminology that we're using now in the amendment that's brought forward talks about habitable space, and that is defined by an agency, so we don't have to create that definition. We'd add it in, so that helps. I think if we were to add the additional language of gross floor area, as long as it doesn't compromise the intent here, I think that's okay, but I have to ponder it a little bit more. I think is where.
But do you feel like the inclusion of this language capture what the council actively discussed?
Yes, I do. And actually, the state is going to be having some changes come down the
Of course I am.
pike, which is going to require 1,000 square feet. So I think 1,200 is a good number. So it's House Bill 577.
Mr. Chair?
Well, with that, I will be okay with the friendly amendment, and I will yield the floor to others that are clamoring.
Thank you. So we have a yes on the friendly, back over. I want to double check on the second. You're okay? Great. Then we have Counselor Gibson, Vincent, Goodwin. Go ahead, Counselor Gibson.
Okay, I can live with the 1,200 foot. I still think that it depends on what you're looking to create here. A reasonable residential unit, or I don't know what would be the other definition I would use. I used to rent apartments in Somersworth, and I had 950 square foot apartments that I rented, all usable space, but including bathrooms and closets, and they were considered very large units. So are you looking to create a separate housing unit or a rental unit that's, I assume, what you're looking to do to provide additional housing? So I guess it's really what you're looking to create here that should define where you're going with this.
It's defined in here. It's accessory dwelling units means a residential living unit that is subordinate to that it is within or attached to a single-family dwelling and is located in a detached structure that provides independent living facilities for one or more persons, including provisions for sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation on the same parcel of land as the
I
principal.
understand that definition.
I guess I'm misunderstanding
Let's
your
just go back
question.
to, I support the, I can live with the 1,200.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Vincent?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I just want to stress, this is an accessory dwelling unit. This isn't a house. It can be separated, it can be a small house, but it's an accessory dwelling unit. I don't want to lose focus of that. That's why I like the amendment of 1,200 square feet. I think that keeps a cap, it keeps everybody honest. I think that's a good measure to go with, and I hope everybody agrees with me and votes for it.
Thank you. Counselor Goodwin, you are recognized.
Yes, I was trying to find the minutes for the original conversation, but I don't think the original language was gross square feet, because I think gross square feet is actually a known, definable thing.
It was gross floor area.
Yeah, gross floor area, I don't know what that means. Gross square feet, I think building code defines, it's everything. So it's like, it's a knowable quantity, and we can define it in a similar methodology as our planning director has done for the habitable space. So in terms of just ambiguity, I think gross square feet is not an ambiguous metric, which really sparked this whole conversation. So I just wanted to make that point.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Counselor Witham.
I like where this conversation has gone, and it just took me some time to wrap my head around some of the terminology. I don't have the apprehension that some counselors have over the size of the ADU unit. If it's 2,000 square feet, I'm fine with that, but I'll I'll be fine with the 1,200 square feet. We have a housing crisis. If these ADUs allow parents to age in place at home, if it allows children to go back to their home, and other uses to allow for flexibility in housing, so be it. I think that's good reuse, but I think 1,200 is a reasonable compromise. I would just note that if the amendment that's been brought forward is adopted here this evening, I think this is a substantial change to the original ordinance as presented. I'd be motioning to table, put it back on the table, because I think we should go back to a public hearing. Someday this will pass, maybe at a time when I need an ADU, but for now, we'll try to get there.
Thank you. Counselor Barry and then Gibson.
I personally don't think we need the max, because again, I put a lot of credit into our planning to catch some of this with the wording. I really don't want to see this go back. So I just feel like we keep pushing this down the road, and I do feel like there are quite a few constituents that are looking to have this fixed sooner than later. I'd really like to get this done tonight, but I don't know where other council sits.
Thank you. Counselor Gibson?
Well, I definitely would have a problem with something that's 2,000 square feet for an ADU, because that to me is not a subordinate unit any longer. Vast majority of housing in Somersworth is under 2,000 square feet. Problem you have without a limitation is that everything is open to interpretation. That's why I can live with the 1,200 number. If somebody wants to squeak that up a little bit, okay, I could still live with that. But I want some definitive guideline here. And the other thing is, no offense to Councilor Berry, but I do not, without actual wording, want to depend on the planning board, because planning boards change, interpretations change, and you need something definitive, because if it goes to the planning board, well, it doesn't say I can't have 3,000 square feet. So, no offense, but I like the written law that's very clear and precise to fall back on.
Thank you. Other discussion? Yes, Counselor Goodwin?
Yeah, and given that this is going to be tabled, I would, I just
Not
want to
gonna be
confirm
tabled.
semantics, because I might have been using the incorrect one. There's gross square feet and there's gross floor area. I defer to staff to figure out which is the best one to use.
You added a max?
Whatever makes sense, but, you know, there is the semantics matter in terms of being able to provide a clean definition that ties to code. So just noting that for the revision. And then I just wanted to speak to Councilor Gibson's, one of his comments about the intent. And to me, the intent of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, is more housing, full stop. Like it's mostly affordable. These housing units are by design smaller than the housing stock which they are being inserted in or next to. But it's more housing. It's allowing more housing to go into areas that have already been developed. That's the primary goal, supply and demand. The more housing we have, the less quickly housing prices will increase and the more affordable options that will be preserved. That's the whole thing,
Really
right?
weird.
So, and to me, the size of that housing is not as critical, particularly in our community. It's not, you know, if we were like in the Hamptons in New York, and an accessory dwelling unit could be a 12,000 square foot mansion to a 30,000 square foot mansion. Yeah, like I think that's a conversation worth having, but that's not going to happen here. So I'm not worried about it.
Great. Thank you.
Connor?
Yes, Counselor Gibson.
Just two quick comments in response. Yes, I want additional housing. I agree 100%. But the unfortunate reality, Somersworth has a history of when you leave the gate open, every horse in the yard goes running through it. And when you don't make sure you have some kind of definition in place, people will take advantage of that to the extreme. We've seen, maybe history won't repeat itself, but there was, shall we say, a very strong cadre of individuals in the town who thought that this was their own personal playground to do whatever the hell they wanted to. And I do not want to see that again.
Thank you. Other discussion? All right, seeing none, we are voting on the amendments. All right, so again, the motion is on the amendments to ordinance 19-25. If you are in favor of the amendments, you will state by saying yes. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham,
Yes.
Goodwin,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes, but quick question, is this going back to a public hearing?
We haven't determined that yet.
Okay, so yes.
This is a vote on the amendment,
Amendments.
correct?
Correct.
Counselor Peppin,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
All right, the amendments are adopted.
Your Honor, I motion the table since there are substantial change and proper posting to the public for a public hearing.
All right, Counselor Goodwin makes a motion to table, or sorry, Witham. He's looking at
Good one
one.
seconds.
Goodwin seconds, thank you. Witham makes a motion to table. I'll take that. Goodwin seconds. This is a non-debatable motion, so if you're in favor of the motion to table, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying no. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
No.
opposed?
No.
All right, ayes appear to have it. Ayes have it. We have tabled. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Again, I know sometimes our discussions get lengthy, but I think they're always important. So I appreciate everybody's willingness to dive in and debate and discuss. And I think where we're ending is actually better than where we started. So thank you. All right, brings us to item 15, which is unfinished business, where chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on ordinance 24-25, which is supplemental appropriation for emergency repairs for fire department truck 1, which, if approved, appropriates $85,000 from the unassigned fund balance to the firefighting budget. City Clerk.
Ordinance number 2425, supplemental appropriation for emergency repairs for fire department truck 1.
Thank you. Ordinance 24-25, having been read a first and second time, is now open to further amendment. All right, seeing no amendment, I will look for a motion on ordinance 24-25. Counselor Gibson.
I move that we advance the motion.
All right.
I'll second
Counselor
that.
Witham moves, or, oh my God, now I'm mixing everybody's name up. Counselor Gibson makes a motion to approve ordinance 24-25, seconded by Counselor Vincent. Motion for the council is on the adoption of ordinance 24-25. Discussion. Counselor Gibson.
I don't really think it needs any discussion. We need it. Let's do it.
All right. Other discussion? All right. Seeing none, if you're in favor of the adoption of ordinance 24-25, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham,
Yes.
Goodwin,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Peppin,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 24-25 has been adopted. Brings us to ordinance 25-25, which I have referred to the Economic Development Committee and will then be read for a second time at a later date after it comes back from them. Brings us to item 16, which is new business.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to propose that ordinance 26-25 be read by title only.
Thank you. The motion before us is to read ordinance 26-25 by title only. Seconded by Counselor Goodwin. Again, the motion before us is to read ordinance 26-25 by title only. Quick discussion. Seeing none, if you're in favor, state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes. So, Chair recognizes the clerk for a first reading by title only on ordinance 26-25, which is to amend Chapter 4, Personnel Rules and Regulation, Appendix 2, Compensation Schedule. City Clerk.
Ordinance number 2625, to amend Chapter 4 Personnel Rules and Regulations, Appendix 2, Compensation Schedule.
Thank you. Ordinance 26-25, having been read a first time, will remain in first reading until our next regularly scheduled meeting, at which time we will have a public hearing. Chair recognizes the clerk for a first reading on ordinance 27-25, which is a transfer between departments for fiscal year 24-25. City Clerk.
Ordinance number 2725, transfer between departments for fiscal year 2024-2025, June 2nd, 2025. Be it ordained by the City of Somersworth pursuant to Section 7.7D of the City Charter that the following general fund unencumbered balance transfer be made. $45,000 from Public Works, $50,000 from contingency, with $90,000 to city management and $5,000 to capital outlay. This ordinance shall take effect upon passage. Sponsored by Councilors David A. Witham, Martin Pepin, Kenneth S. Vincent, Laura Berry. Approved city attorney.
Thank you. Ordinance 27-25, having read a first time, will remain in first reading until our next regularly scheduled meeting, at which time we will have a public hearing. Brings us to resolutions under new business, Chair recognizes the clerk for a first reading on Resolution 58-25, which is to authorize the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety for a traffic safety patrols grant. City clerk.
Resolution number 5825, to authorize the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety for a traffic enforcement patrols grant. June 2nd, 2025. Whereas the City of Somersworth has applied for a traffic enforcement patrols grant through the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety. And whereas the City of Somersworth has received notification of a grant award in the amount of $8,500, which represents 75% of the project cost. And whereas the grant will allow the City of Somersworth the ability to provide increased patrol and traffic patrol enforcement. Explanation of total project grant breakdown. Office of Highway Safety, $8,500, city matched $2,125, total project award $10,625. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Somersworth that the city manager is authorized to execute any documents and agreements necessary for the grant's execution and take any and all other such actions relative to this grant determined to be in the best interest of the city. Sponsored by Councilor Martin Pepin, approved city attorney.
Thank you. Resolution 58-25, having read it first time, will remain in first reading until our next regularly scheduled. Also realized, just to jump back a little bit, my apologies, I don't think I officially, I keep doing that. I keep not putting my mic on. I'm a mess tonight, everybody. Sorry. I'll repeat where I was. Resolution 58-25, having read a first time, will remain in first reading until our next regularly scheduled meeting. I wanted to jump backwards because I realized, I don't think I officially read into the record that we will have a public hearing for the ordinance that we tabled, ordinance 19-25, at our next regularly scheduled meeting. I just wanted to make that clear. All right, brings us to Resolution 59-25 to authorize the city manager to prepare bid specifications for the replacement of the fire department's aerial ladder truck with an aerial platform truck. City clerk.
Resolution number 5925, to authorize the city manager to prepare bid specifications for the replacement of the fire department's aerial ladder truck with an aerial platform truck. June 2nd, 2025. Whereas the City of Somersworth's capital improvement plan recommends replacing the fire department's aerial ladder truck with an aerial platform truck in fiscal year 2027. And whereas due to current economic conditions, the time to build the truck and get it into service can be as much as 4 years. And whereas the current aerial ladder truck is nearing 20 years in service and is currently out of service for emergency repairs, making time of the essence. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Somersworth that the city manager is authorized to prepare bid specifications and solicit bids from qualified companies for the replacement of the fire department's aerial ladder truck with an aerial platform truck. Sponsored by Councilors David A. Witham, Martin Pepin, approved city attorney.
Thank you. Councilor Witham, you're recognized.
Yes, I'd like to suspend rules and act on the resolution this evening.
Councilor Witham makes a motion to suspend council rules for a second reading on Resolution 59-25. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Pepin. Question for the council is on the suspension of council rules for a second reading on Resolution 59-25. Discussion? Yes, Councilor Witham.
There's no cost obligation here. This just gives the fire department the green light.
Thank you. Other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, if you're in favor of the motion, you'll say it by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll say it by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
In
Ayes
Your
have
Honor,
it.
if I could add myself to the sponsor, that'd be
Yep,
great.
Absolutely. Ayes have it. Motion passes. The chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on Resolution 59-25.
Resolution number 5925, to authorize the city manager to prepare bid specifications for the replacement of the fire department's aerial ladder truck with an aerial platform truck.
Thank you. Resolution 59-25, having been read a first and now second time, is open to further amendment. Seeing no amendment, I'm looking for a motion on Resolution 59-25. Councilor Witham.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Councilor Witham moves to the adoption of Resolution 59-25, seconded by Councilor Pepin. Discussion. Seeing none, if you're in favor of the adoption of Resolution 59-25, you'll state by saying yes. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
Resolution 59-25 has been adopted. Thank you. Brings us to items under other. Tonight we have a vote to ratify the tentative agreement between the Somersworth School Board and the Somersworth Education Support Personnel Association Union. What are the wishes of the council? Councilor Witham.
Move that the council ratify the agreement.
Councilor Witham
second
moves to
that.
the ratification of the agreement, seconded by Councilor Vincent. Motion for the council is on the ratification of the agreement between the school board and the Somersworth Educational Support Association Union. Discussion. Witham.
Yes, I would just like to thank the bargaining group for going back to the table and for being respectful of the process over the last couple of weeks. So thank them, and also thank you to the school department team for bringing it back to the table and getting it back to us as quickly as they have.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilor Gibson.
Full agreement with Councilor Woodham. Good work by all parties involved. And just to so that everybody understands it, why the original contract was reconsidered was because nobody can give us any idea of what the next 4 years are going to be like. We will gladly look at another contract down the road, and the one that's being approved, I think, is fair and gives them a little something more. And I wish I had a better crystal ball. Thank you.
You and me both. Other discussion? All right, seeing none, if you're in favor of the ratification of the agreement, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
All right, the agreement has been ratified. Thank you, everyone. Brings us to item 17, which is comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rules 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speaker shall not enter into a debate with any persons, the mayor, council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Thank you. If you wouldn't mind saying your name and ward in which you live. Thank you.
Richard Brooks, Ward 1, also the HDC Chair, and of course the ordinance proposal that you mentioned that you're referencing back to the Economic Development Committee. We did discuss that at the HDC meeting. Of course, we're not in favor of that. It does limit us on our ability to oversee some of the district. I've spent the weekend chatting with some of the councilors personally about this. I think we really should take a step back and consider this more in depth before we move forward with this. There's a lot of things in play with this, and one of them is the Historic District Advisory Committee, which we know was formed mainly because of the 85 Elm Street. We know that was a very controversial project, to say the least. And this advisory committee, we've looked at several things. Again, the 3 members of the HDC are routinely there at almost every meeting. The councilor side of it, we've got 3 councilors. Routinely, we have 1 or 2 show up. I don't know if we've had all 3 show up to any one meeting. And I feel that we should all be on the same page and discuss this more in depth. One of the ideas, and we haven't progressed a lot of these ideas out because it doesn't feel right to approve these ideas without everybody there to vote on it. So we've been slow moving because of the lack of attendance, is I think a fair way to word that. And one of the key things that I think is going to be a huge positive in this is an autopsy of that project. What went right? What went wrong? What could we have done better? And I think that's something we really should consider and delve into. And not just the HDC. Have councilors. I forward the ideas. I've got my own ideas, but I don't want to be the only one or one of 2 or 3 making this decision. And right now it feels like we're being pushed aside because this is not coming out of that committee. So I just urge you to let's take a step back. Let's learn a little bit more about what did go wrong. You know, I understand the historic district, people either hate us or they love us. You know, there's not much middle ground there. And I'm not going to get into the details, but I don't think the developer was on the up and up with everything either. So I think there's faults on both sides here. And I think we're being unfairly targeted. Maybe it has something to do with some comments that have been made at recent meetings. Sometimes, some people can word stuff very politely, sugar-coated. Some people can't. It's just people's nature. And, I hear the city council wants to be tough on code enforcement. I get it. But if we or one of us is tough at a meeting, let's give us some leeway too. It's only one or two maybe, it's not the whole board. So I'm just asking, take some real time. Let's discuss this far more in depth, because I think it's a knee-jerk reaction and we're moving too fast with this proposal. Just my feeling on it. I had planned to make some big statement here tonight, but after talking to others, I don't think we're rushing through with this because it's going to the Economic Development Committee. I didn't feel that I needed to get up here and speak, but hearing some of the comments that you made, I just want to throw this out there and let's sit down and really discuss this. And I'm more than willing to speak with any one of you one-on-one. One thing that I do want to say is something that I'm trying to recommend on that advisory committee is form-based codes, which at the same time I think was one of the problems with 85 Elm, because we had form-based codes saying we want the building this tall, whereas maybe the district was saying no, it shouldn't. The historic district was saying maybe it shouldn't be. So I think there were conflicting ordinances based on that. And I think that's just another thing that we would delve into and realize with this autopsy. But at the same time, I like the idea of form-based codes. I think if you take the most basic, simple picture of a building with the roof lines and a box and start saying, what do we want in a downtown? And this works as well for the plaza if that's redeveloped or even infill. What do we want to see there? So we don't end up with this urban renewal that everybody hated that is now the plaza. It's a simple step. There's more features to discuss, but that's the first step to these form-based codes. And if we look at that in the downtown as what we want for infill, it could also be used on the historic district sections as guidance for the historic district, because I'll agree, when 85 Elm was being discussed, there was 2 or 3 different ideas on the historic district. So it would help us get on the same page as well. And these are the things that I think the Historic District Advisory Committee can help bring out and present as ideas to make this better going forward. I really feel that this proposed ordinance is a step too quick before we discuss more in depth many different aspects. So I'll leave it at that. Again, if anybody's willing to reach out, I'm more than willing to talk on this topic. Other places, other times, I feel it's important to the downtown city and our character that we've preserved much of, but let's not let the plaza happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments by visitors this evening? Right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 18, which is closing comments by council members. Councilor Goodwin, you are up.
Wow, starting off strong. Okay, well, so in light of Pride Month, I wanted to sort of share, I think I did this last year, and I don't really remember, but I wanted to sort of share my experience. I think everyone knows here that I identify as gay. Lifelong, resident of Somersworth, born, raised, Somersworth Public Schools. It was, when I was growing up here, it was a different time. And I was the recipient of a lot of bullying, and I was belittled, I was isolated, I was othered for being gay. And it was not a good experience. And I, self-medicated at the time. I had, ways to sort of deflect the pain and the social stigma that was being attached to me. And, one of the things, my nickname in high school was Gay Paul. They literally, and I wasn't out. I didn't identify as gay at the time, and my peers could tell that I was different, and they were like, you know what, we're gonna call you Gay Paul. And that stuck with me until it became not socially acceptable to use it anymore. But into my adulthood, I had select people from Somersworth that would call me that and thought it was appropriate. And that somehow was, it was both a derogatory term to belittle me, but also just I don't know, wildly inappropriate, right? So, you know, outside of Somersworth, I've also had encounters that were negative because of my identity, because of the way I present. I don't try to pass. I don't come here acting like a straight guy. I will tell you whatever you want to know. I'm going to say, as I think many of you know, I'm going to say whatever I want. And I wanted to live my life and be respected on my terms as a human and my contributions. I've been, don't need to get into it, but I've been the victim of violence because of my sexual identity. And I just want to remind people that visibility matters, that allyship matters, that inclusion matters. This is what Pride Month is about. Like, you know, it's not just corporate sponsorship, you know, being like, oh yes, like, you know, slap some rainbows on things and call it good. Like, no, this is a substantive topic. People have and are dying because of the lack of support from their communities and society. And I guess I'll end with, you know, politicians might change policy, but they cannot change our shared humanity and ability to care for each other. So be the change and love the people around you for who they are and let them know that they are loved and appreciated and that you are there for them. Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month, Paul. Councilor Cameron, you're next.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm very sad that you have been through a lot of those experiences along with the mayor, because we know some of his stories. And it just appalls me the way people treat each other. And I just want to let you know I love you. And I've known you for a long time. So I hope moving forward that people adhere to what his advice is and just love everybody and treat everybody with respect. Also, the Children's Festival is coming up on June 21st, not that far away. So if you get an opportunity to come downtown and join in the fun, and also the night before, the 20th, will be the fireworks display by Mr. Vincent and music and truck vendors, so come on down. Good time always had by all. And if anybody couldn't tell, I'm excited about my meeting on Wednesday about the mural that's going to be going up on the Little League field. This has been over a year in progress, and I'm excited to say that we have some designs. We will be putting it out for public vote, and it will be absolutely done in July. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Barry?
I think this kind of ties in a little bit, but some of the meetings by other boards, some other meetings here, some of the things I think I'm going to ask the mayor to bring to a committee. I'm not sure which one, but I think we need to establish a rules and procedure or meeting etiquette for all of our boards. I think that is one of the things that maybe sparked a little bit of the zoning amendment, but just some other things. Other communities have this in place. We put some rules and procedures on our visitors when they come to comment that we're not supposed to engage in different things, and I think we maybe need to look at how our boards interact with our people who come to them. So I'm going to ask the mayor to look into that. I also think that kind of goes into what was already said, that it's just being respectful of everybody, just showing like, we all don't agree on everything, it's fine, but just be respectful of each other. I do consider myself an ally, and I hope everybody realizes that and acknowledges that. And if they don't know, please now know. But I do hope everybody is safe this month in whatever they choose to participate in, and I hope everybody gets out of this month safe.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be referring your rules and procedures to government operations. Brings us to Councilor Pepin.
Thank you, Mayor. I really don't know how to put this. It bothered me today when you said you ended up, that you were scared. And that should never happen. It shouldn't happen in our day and age, no matter what race you are, what nationality you are, if you're a part of the LGBTQ community or whatever. Unfortunately, it's come everywhere. I mean, it's not just here. The only thing that gives me faith a little bit is that everybody knows you were part of the LGBT community. Former Mayor Hilliard was, and our voters voted for you. That shows you basically how strong Somersworth supports different versions of society, and I'm proud of that to an extent, because I am a Somersworth boy. I lived here all my life, and it was different when I was a kid. I mean, we had the French school, we had the Irish school, Catholic schools. We didn't talk to each other. We didn't date each other, girls, and stuff like that. So in a roundabout way, it hasn't changed much at all. And so in a roundabout way, but it was different. I mean, we went to high school together, so we all learned to get along with each other. And it bothers me. It bothers me to watch the way the world is going. There is just so much of it. I know we have some of our problems in Somersworth, just like everybody else in every other community. We have a great police department, tries to keep it under control, in which they do a very good job at it. But I'm sorry that you feel that way. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm getting up there in age. The other day I had somebody jump out of the truck because I waved to him, and basically it was a wave. I think he thought I gave him the middle finger. And he came charging at me like a Brahma bull, and then he took a second look at my dog, and he decided to get back in the truck. So I can't keep my dog with me all the time, but he's with me about 75% of the time. So it's not just, people are awful at times, certain people, all right, I should say. I just hope the majority of us are better and more understanding, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Vincent? Councilor Vincent, you're recognized.
Thank you, Anna. I'd like to comment on the fireworks for the Children's Festival. Yes, I shoot them, and I get paid for them. But the best thing about that is that I match what they pay me. So it's basically a wash, and I do it for the kids in the city. And my company, I know I talk about it a little bit here and there, but I like to give back to my community. It makes me feel real good. As far as Pride Month, I just want to say that the God that I worship over there in the round church on West High Street doesn't care if you're gay or if you're a lesbian or you're trans. That God just cares that you have love in your heart. And that's really what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson?
I'm going to try not to cover the same ground. I'll just leave it at this. My philosophy is live and let live. Everybody's entitled to their life as long as they don't interfere in my life. And I do want to apologize to the members of our community that have suffered bullying. I got bullied as a kid, not for the same reason, but I had a big mouth and I didn't know when to keep it shut. Anyways, going on. The ordinance addressing the HDC, I will probably vote against that when it comes before us because I do believe it is shrinking the HDC, whether they still have input or not. If we want to deal with the HDC, set up guidelines for them. Don't just come up with what I consider the easy way out. The HDC is an important part of our community. And as said too many times before, 85 Elm Street is the classic example of how things go wrong. It's always seemed strange to me. I go out west My relatives live in Arizona. And you go into a lot of these communities in Arizona, and you'd swear to God you step back a century or two, because their attitude towards historical preservation is, doesn't matter, we want to keep the character of our communities, and they do that. You'd love some of the designs of McDonald's and Burger Kings and so forth to see out in the West, because you wouldn't know except for being able to see tiny little yellow arches. No big ones out there, at least in a lot of the communities. We have some important issues coming up for us in the months ahead, and I hope that they all get the consideration that they deserve. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councilor Michu?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's a good thought. How about people treating each other like how you want to be treated, period? If you want to be treated like crap, okay, we'll treat you like crap, but, personally, I like to be treated good, so I treat everybody good. Second, Councilor Berry, I'd be more than happy to look into that for you. And here's another thought. Why don't we let the voters of the city of Somersworth decide what kind of HDC they want in this community? One that rules with an iron fist, or one that's just an advisory board? Let the citizen decide this time around what type of board they actually want. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Witham?
Thanks. I did sign on to the ordinance being proposed by the mayor to remove oversight of infill development in the commercial industrial section of the historic district for a couple of reasons. One, for the very reason that we have playing out here tonight. It stirs a robust conversation around an important topic. Without an ordinance change, and I've said this before with other ordinances, the conversation is a whole lot more casual. So this turns up the volume on that conversation, and that's a good thing. Thank Mr. Brooks. Yesterday saw me working on the Noble Pines ball field. He could be a police detective chief. He knew where to find me. I don't know if that's hard work or not. You did find me there. We had a great conversation, as we often do, and I thank him for his professionalism, his insight, his passion for the historic district, and I do appreciate that. And one of the things that I shared with him very openly yesterday as to why I signed on to this is that, and again, 85 Elm is the poster child here, right? But there is definitely a different tone and tenor of the HDC dealing with a commercial applicant in that case versus a residential applicant up on the hill. A residential applicant, if you watch the HDC meetings, they tend to be more conversational, more collegial. There's a positive vibe to it. If it's a landlord that has a residential property, the vibe tends to change a little bit. But when it comes to the commercial developer at 85 Elm, there was definitely a different feel, a different tenor. I would almost characterize it as an us and them feel to it. So to that end, I applaud the idea of this autopsy. Never thought of the term being used in that way, but I think that's an excellent idea. Can we learn from what went on there? Because one of the things in sitting on the planning board that we hear all too often from members of the general public, and I think it's unfair, is that we are not a business-friendly community. I take umbrage with that. Most projects in front of our planning board get approved in one meeting, maybe two. I think I can think of rare exception, maybe a project has gone three or more. The Sunningdale project is maybe one. Most do not, right? They get approved pretty quickly here, and I'll thank city staff for a lot of the work they do up front there. And among the city staff is a site review technical committee that staff sits on, so that things are ironed out well before it gets to the planning board. I think we're very business friendly. I don't have that same vibe with the HDC on these commercial projects. So the autopsy, I think, can help us out there. So I'm at least respectful of that process, and I am respectful of the ordinance change because it stirs this conversation that we're having. I'll close simply with the same topic that others have spoken about here tonight, and it's the hate, it's the vitriol over folks in the LGBTQ community. I don't understand where it comes from. The folks that I know, sitting beside me here tonight, are some of the smartest people I know. They're some of the most genuine and open people that I know. There's no false front. They are who they are. I easily call you my friends. The Somersworth Police Department, at given times of the year, they, on their social media accounts, take their patch worn on their sleeve and they change it. I think they had one for St. Patrick's Day. They have a different one around the holidays with the Shop with a Cop and various ones throughout the year. They had one for Pride Month. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being brave in doing that. And the amount of hate and vitriol that was shot their way for displaying that patch, I beside myself. I can't understand it. I often say that our world is in a high-speed wobble. What do I mean by that? If I had a top and I spun it on this small countertop right here, the top is getting to the end of its spin and you've all spun a top, right? And the thing is starting to wobble. It's going to fall off the edge. We got to figure out a way to get that top spinning again because it's going to fall off the edge with the amount of hate and vitriol that we have in our world. Wish I had an answer for it. I don't. All I can say is it doesn't exist in these chambers. And I agree with Councilor Pepin. Although it does exist in this community, sadly, I think it is certainly the exception to the rule. So stand proud. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, that brings us to item 19, which is future agenda items. There's a couple I want to point out, which was we have our workshop meeting next Monday at 4:30 after the pride flag raising. Please all come. I just referred the rules and procedures to Government Ops. Are there any other future agenda items folks have? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Need to bring up about
We have a workshop scheduled now.
okay,
Yeah,
so
that'll
it's
be
covered
the
by the
workshop.
workshop.
That'll be the
Okay,
workshop.
thank
Exactly.
you.
Yep. All right, moving on. That brings us to 20. We have no non-public sessions. Last item is adjournment. Councilor Vincent moves the council stand in adjournment to our next regularly scheduled meeting, seconded by Councilor Barry. Question for the council is adjournment. If you're in favor, state by saying aye. If you're opposed, state by saying nay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. We are
Abstain.
adjourned. One abstention.